Hey everyone, I'm the Drink Pro. Today I'm drinking Black Saddle 12-year bourbon. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me. Kyle the Drink Pro here with you yet again. Hope you enjoy the content on this channel. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. Consider joining the Patreon if you want to help support the channel. Maybe buy me a drink once in a while. That's all it amounts to, but you can get some cool extra content. Today, I'm trying Black Saddle 12-year bourbon. Shout out to Nate Cooper. He's becoming a regular contributor to this channel. I know I've got a lot of different people sending me pours, and I have reviewed a lot of Nate's very recently, but it's just sort of aligning with the circumstances. And I promise you, if you've sent me pours, I've got reviews coming very soon. And if there's a particular reason that you want a pour to be tasted soon, or an event, something like that, just reach out to me. I'm happy to modify the schedule if it makes sense for, a birthday or Father's Day or something like that. I like doing things like that for my fans. Today I'm drinking an interesting pour from a company called Franklin Distillers Products. They're what's called an NDP, a non-distilling producer. So they don't actually make any of their own products, they're sourcing products. All we know about this particular pour, Black Saddle, is that it's a 12-year bourbon, it's from somewhere in Kentucky, and it's 90 proof. So we don't have a lot of information about it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Well, I don't like it, but it doesn't mean it's a bad pour. I like to give it a fair shot and try not to hold that against them for the perspective of the flavor and the smell. I do hold it against them from an ethical perspective, but that's a little bit different than do I like your whiskey. Now, like I said, I don't know much about Black Saddle. I don't know much about this company. Nate told me that he just sort of found this on a shelf one day. It was between 40 and 50 bucks. He decided to pick it up, and he really liked it. I think that's a great way to live, by the way. If you're not doing things like Nate, you definitely should consider it. There are a lot of great pours out there for between $30 and $50, and that doesn't take the kind of large investment that you get from a lot of the bottles I review that are $100, $200, or even more. I understand that that's not accessible to everyone, and I like to do reviews in all different price points in the spectrum. I also like to do reviews on whiskeys that, don't get a lot of traction, people don't hear a lot about, are uncommon. That's fun for me, and it's kind of hard to do, unfortunately, just because there are so many cool whiskeys I want to try that are relatively mainstream. I'm trying to kind of keep a balance here in terms of content and make sure you guys are seeing all different kinds of whiskeys, that we can expand the world of whiskeys and the world of drinks generally. I'm also exploring different coffees, different cocktails. I've got lots of content out there because I want to sort of open the world of drinking more generally to people who might have just entered through whiskey. I think there's some great stuff you can explore if you're willing to take a chance. All right, so let's go ahead and nose this Black Saddle. So right off the bat, I definitely get some wood. I definitely get a cedar quality, maybe even a pine quality. There's a little bit of that like Christmas tree scent. The rye spice is definitely there. I can smell this must be a high rye mash bill. Cocoa is really prominent on the nose as well. Not chocolate, but cocoa powder. There's almost a powdery quality, which is very weird to explain. A lot of classic notes as well. Definitely the corn, definitely a vanilla. The vanilla is a little bit saccharine. It's a sweet, alcohol-driven vanilla, like a vanilla extract. Not my favorite note, but it's definitely there on the nose. I might get a little caramel as well. I think I just get a hint of cinnamon. It kind of blends in with that rye spice and the woodiness. There's a definite herbal quality to this. You get the herbal note for sure. You get that hint of woodiness. You get the rye spice, and then there's that sweet part. In this particular pour, I think I actually prefer the herbal qualities in it over the sweet qualities because they are so saccharine sweet. It's so sharp. It's so narrow. It's not a broader sweetness like a honey or something like a molasses. It's a little bit narrow for my taste, but it's not a bad smell at all, and it's relatively complex. I'm also getting a hint of nuttiness in this. I would say almonds. Okay, let's go ahead and give this a taste. Now, the first thing that stands out to me on this pour is that the profile is not sharp in any way. Although I got that sharp, sweet saccharine on the nose, the palate is very balanced. It's very subtle. Almost too subtle. There's not really a lot happening in terms of exploration or interesting journey it's taking you on. It's tasty, but not complicated at all. And I do tend to lean towards a more complicated whiskey in terms of what I really enjoy. I'm almost getting like an anise or anise. I've heard both, but I think it's anise. Maybe that's just my Hoosier coming out. I get this very anise quality to the nose. You don't usually get a licorice smell from whiskey. That's very unusual for me. But after tasting it, going back to the nose, it's definitely a licorice. The vanilla really shows up on that second taste. Vanilla and honey. Mid-palate, you sort of get hints of this nuttiness. Little hints of the herbal note. The finish is super soft and gentle. Maybe a very slight green oak. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Going back to the nose on this is really something weird. I've had a couple of tastes now, and the nose is becoming so vegetal. It's like sticking your nose in the garden. You smell vegetation. And not like rotting vegetation like I get from whiskeys that aren't being made very well, in my opinion. Or sometimes they'll do that intentionally in some of the peaty Islas, but it's not really vegetal in those cases. I get more of a specific direction they're trying to go, and the whole whiskey fits with it. No, this is like I'm in the garden and I have honey. This is like I've got a dollop of honey that I'm carrying around through a leafy garden, through a greenhouse.
Still not your worst comparison.
The flavor notes are pretty consistent. I'm getting slight variations in the mid-palate and finish between this sort of vegetation quality, like this greenery, and a slight anise or licorice. There's not very much wood that shows up. There's not very much pepper that shows up. Hints of nuttiness, maybe. But on the whole, it's pretty subtle. It's pretty quiet. And the finish is pretty damn short. It leaves a lot to be desired, frankly, on the finish. The finish is maybe the weakest part of this pour. Overall, I think this is a solid pour. It's doing a lot of good things as a bourbon. Very traditional, classic vanilla notes and honey notes, but then also bringing in some of that interesting vegetation, specifically on the nose after tasting, the retronasal olfaction, good word, that really shows up in a way that's unlike most bourbons I've had, so that's kind of fun and different. But it's so subtle and so quiet. I really wish they hadn't put this at 90 proof. I think this whiskey needs to be around 50 to 55% to let it shine and really give you all of its beauty. I can tell there's a lot of interesting things going on, but I can't really access them because it has been watered down. So that's an unfortunate reality in my mind. Likely they also had to chill filter it to get it to 45, which may affect the flavor as well. Depends on how you feel about chill filtering. I know there's some strong opinions about what its effect on flavor is. I would say overall, this is probably worth $25 to $35. I wouldn't pay $50 for this. Probably wouldn't pay $45 for this. There's better pours out there for that price range in the Old Forester lineup, I think, some of the Brown Forman stuff, and maybe even some of the Four Roses stuff, depending on what you're looking for in a bourbon. Depending on the price, I might consider buying a bottle of it. If you could get this down to $35, I would have a bottle on the shelf, just because I love that vegetal note so much. That vegetation on the mid-palate is so unique to me and different. I think the price point might be $50. It's hard to recommend at that price, but you get a little bit less than that, and you can probably get away with it. It's probably worth having. For better or worse, I will say it does not drink like a 12-year-old whiskey. It drinks younger than that. I think it is because it's been watered down, but it's definitely a good start. I hope that we see some more products from this company, and they develop some, further exploration of the density of these kinds of whiskeys and the complexity that you can pull from them. I'm sure that to get this down to the $40, $50 price range, they felt it was necessary to cut it with water, which is why they put it at 90 proof, and I don't really care for that decision. If you really want to try something that smells like you're walking through a greenhouse, get a bottle of Black Saddle 12-year. It's worth trying. You probably won't buy another one, though, because it's not complicated enough to keep you coming back. Nonetheless, I'm going to keep coming back to this glass so I can finish it, and you all keep drinking like professionals. Cheers.